Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Old Grumblers, episode 20. Today, we have Sean from the Warhammer 3 dev team. Brief disclaimer, these questions, we're asking for Sean's opinion. So, answers you hear here, they're not the word of CA, it's just the word of Sean. Do not harass Sean or any member of the CA staff or anyone else, anywhere for that matter, because that's kind of cringe. If this goes down well, you like it, CA likes it, we might make it a more regular thing, and who knows, in future, we might be able to bring you some exclusive news. Saying that, the Skarsnik news about the ambush and how it was decided and how it was implemented, we actually knew that before the blog post came out, so if I'd posted this earlier, then that would have been an exclusive. So, like this, and we'll get more of that. Hot news. Also, another thing to mention, I got a new, one of those fancy Elgato prompters for my birthday, and I'm staring full down the barrel like this for the full Q&A, and it's incredibly uncomfortable. Looking at it in the editing now, I hate it. Sean probably hated it. Fred definitely hated it. And you're probably going to hate it. So I apologize for that. I can't fix it, but it is what it is. Anyway, I'll pass you over to Fred to do the second intro of 3. There's a third one coming. Look out for that. Enjoy.
Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of Old Grumblers podcast. With us today, we have COLONELDAMNEDERS and a special guest, Sean, who works at Creative Assembly.
Hi.
In a corner, we also have Josh, who has guaranteed us that he will not... he'll just stand there in the background, but he has guaranteed us that he will not break in and shoot Sean as soon as he answers anything wrong. Fingers crossed. Sadly, Monsters couldn't be here with us today. He has prior obligations. Being a giant that he is, he must terrorize people or help them rebuild windmills. So today, we will simply be asking questions to Sean, who has graciously lent us his time.
Thank you very much.
Sean, what do you do as Creative Assembly?
I am the Associate Design Director of the Warhammer DLC team, which means I do a lot of the game design stuff, and I make sure that the team's design is on track, and I help all the other disciplines prioritize what we need to do for the DLCs. It's quite a boring answer, though.
No, it's always fun to know, like, how do you prioritize what to do for the DLC? Is it like a production way in like, oh, well, we need to get this on the road, or like...
Yeah, it's funny, like the further up the design track I've gone, the more production-y stuff I do. So, yeah, a lot of it, comes down to, like, player value first. Like, what do we think is the most important thing to improve the game? What is the most important thing to capture the identity of characters we're making in DLCs, and then what can we actually feasibly make in the time frame we have, and then prioritizing all of that. It's kind of funny because at the start of a project we have plans for way more, but then we quickly realize oh, well, then we have to iterate on it so that it's actually good, and we have to make sure that it all comes out as bug free as possible, so you get the refined version of what is initially a bit of a huge mess. It's oh, this is really what the priority should be.
Yeah, I bet half of the stuff that you guys plan aren't even in the game, but would love to be in the game.
Yeah, from the idea stage, there's loads of ideas, and I think the thing is a lot of those ideas conflict with when you actually play with it. So that's why they get removed. Not even always for time, just because hey, that's a cool idea. Let's put that in the backlog for something that would make sense another time, and let's focus on this one, which is more appropriate.
That leads us beautiful into our next question. So, of course, 3 Lords in this DLC. Who would you say is your favourite? And then who's one that you wish could have been given a little bit more time to be fleshed out and maybe get some of those mechanics that are put back on the back burner?
Oh, tough. Because they're all my children. So you're asking me to choose between my children.
But after a certain point, you get so many kids, they always say oh, you don't have a favorite child. But if you have 18 of them and one of them sells your TV for meth, you're yeah, the ones who's a doctor is definitely going to be higher up on the wrong on the ladder, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, there's my Skaven children, and then there's everyone else below that. I guess in this one, who have I had the most fun with? Maybe Skulltaker. Just being in Illustrious Khorne has been kind of fun. And we made way more improvements to Khorne than we thought we were originally. That was one of those races we thought, hey, generally pretty positive, people like it, and then we kept playing. It was yeah, but what if we changed this as well? And what if we also changed that? So I think Skulltaker's probably ended up being my favorite. And the one I wish we had more time with, it's not really Gorbad, but the greenskins, because to go back to that conversation that we all had in our head at the start, like, do we need to do too much for greenskins? People like greenskins as they are. So we ended up not doing as much as we did for ogres and Khorne because we felt like greenskins are in a good spot. But, with infinite time and infinite manpower, we would rework everything. But sadly, that's not how the universe works.
I did see some really cool changes for the greenskins, like Skarsnik finally getting his stalking stance, which is really cool. It's something that the community has been wanting for a long time. What's the decision-making process for like trying to get that into the game?
I guess it comes back down to the prioritization stuff. So we've got a great team, our player experience team, who like helps us highlight issues that the players want to see. We're far from like a hive mind that knows everything. So we have people that will help us pull the information that matters. Also, my best friend mains Skarsnik, which made it like quite apparent to me as well that he wanted something.
So many game development stories that just go like that. Yeah, my friend said we should do that. It was a great idea.
Yeah, so like we knew we wanted to do it. But it's funny, the version of how he's got like his stalk stance now is again like version 3 of how he got it. So like we originally put it as like, oh, what if it just when he gets Karakeet Peaks, he gets it, and that can be like an extra reward for Karakeet Peaks. And then we thought, oh, but that's like a bit of a cop out, isn't it? Like maybe you should have it earlier, and then like we can evolve it when he gets Karakeet Peaks. And then that unlocked some new tech because previously we couldn't do that. We couldn't like just add stances on the fly and change them around. Like that, if you've seen us do it before, it's like us scripting it, which is like not the like cleanest way to do it. So now we've got a new system that lets us actually change what stances you have on the fly, and that's where you've seen in like the Offers to the Moor update. We've given tunnel stance away. And I think the modders will be very happy to see that they can now customize what stances every faction and army has at any time based on just like bonus values. So quite cool.
Yeah, that was the old thing with the Lithanar, right? That he would have stalk stance. It was meant that only a Lithanar was supposed to have the stalking stance, but instead all his armies got him instead. Just ended up with like Tyrion with stalking stance as well.
Yeah. Bit of a tech limitation at the time, but like as we've moved forwards, we can improve these. I can't say for certain. Maybe it's a bug. I don't know, maybe if Alathanar, when he gets confederated, he should definitely keep his stalking stance now because we can do that. I'm pretty sure previously if you confederate Alathanar, he would just lose that. But we could make sure he always has it now.
Well, that's really cool because that's like a good highlight for him.
Definitely. Yeah, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Skarsnik is definitely one of those he started out as like an ugly ducking, like community opinion or my opinion and friends' opinion, he was definitely one of the worst lords in the game, and he's really become a beautiful swan and quite fabulous.
I mean, he used to be one of the hardest factions in the game. He had like the scientifically worst start in the entire game ever, and now he's just become like just really good instead. So it's really fun to see because everybody likes Skarsnik, and they used to be the Warhammer 1 like memes as well. So everybody likes you saying like, "Who got schemes?" and is saying stuff like that.
Yeah, I still quote a lot of them. Like me and Sly the Miser, we got some great memories from Warhammer 1 of just assassinating everyone.
Nice. Do you have any like meme lines that you really enjoy?
Who needs stabbing? We got schemes. All the classics. All the classics that I'm sure we all say. As soon as you hear it, you just repeat it back like a parrot, right?
Yeah. Like one of those kids' toys they just repeated in a worse voice.
I love the Luther Harkon. Crazy, not stupid. That's always my favorite. Yeah, he's become a beautiful swan and almost a gold standard faction, which brings me to my next question. Excellent segue. Who would you personally feel is like a gold standard faction for, like, if every faction could be as in-depth and mechanic rich and perfect as this faction, who would you want that to be?
So who would I want? So who do I think is the best?
Yeah, you personally.
Who's my favorite, or who do I wish was the best?
What is the gold standard of a faction? Like, which one would you want everyone to be at the level at?
Okay. It's kind of tough because I will answer your question, I promise. But I'm going to ramble. It's kind of tough because like what we tried to get in factions is different each time. Like we don't want every faction to have the same level of complexity. We don't want all of them to be like Chaos Dwarves, because when we made Chaos Dwarves, we knew that was like the industrial fantasy. And also when you're making a DLC for a live game, you can assume that most of the people that buy the DLC know how the game works, so you can make it a bit more complicated. And in other places, like it just doesn't make sense for it to be like too many resources. It's not like appropriate. But I think my favorite faction that I've worked on, and like a faction, not culture side, was probably Throt, because he's got a thematic mechanic that's like completely tied into who he should be, and it doesn't like take him to like, you know, Ikit level of like this is like the de facto best, like strongest campaign. And also because like Poison Wind Mortars are so strong and Rattling Guns and Jezzails, when you play as Mulder, you're actually encouraged to not use what would be your standard army composition, which is like another thing that I really like when we can encourage that to get a bit of variety between the factions. So I'd say if everyone was like Throt, if everyone was a Skaven, the world would be a better place.
That's a good one. I really like Thrall as well. It's probably my favorite Skaven faction, but that's just because I played Ikit way too much, I think.
Yeah.
Thrall is great.
So Twist and Twilight also one of I think it's one of our favorite DLCs. We bring it up quite a lot, Fred, right?
Yeah, I love that one. I think it's just you get so much like bang for a buck on that one, and it's just good DLCs and everything like that. But I also like quite enjoy the Wood Elves as well and everything in it. It's good stuff. There seems to be a lot more focus on getting around more and more on the map in recent DLCs and updates. Like Arbol has teleportation, he has sea lanes, Changeling also runs around lots. Are you considering more ways to get more factions exploring more of the map outside of unique faction mechanics?
Where appropriate. I think that's the key thing. Like if the theme makes sense, we'll do it. So like Gorbad doesn't do it, because Gorbad should be stomping the whole world across the way. Like he shouldn't be like, I'll skip that middle bit. They're fine. Like he will, you know, ravage where it's everywhere. But where we think this will make the gameplay better and it makes like lawful sense to the character to get something in there, we do add it. And we tend to actually start with as few teleporting mechanics as possible, and we only add them in when we need it. So like Golgvag, originally he wouldn't like have the ability to teleport to his like contract clients, because we were like, oh well, do we need that? Could we just make it so the contracts appear like close enough to you that you could walk there? And when we play tested it a bunch, and it goes back to like all the iteration we do, it's like, yeah, walking for 3 turns is boring. Like it's really like not enjoyable.
Yeah.
And also a lot of people's fantasy was like, I want to work for Malekith, or I want to work for Zhao Ming, and I want to travel. It's like, so what, we're going to tell the player walk for 30 turns before you can enjoy your contract? So like, no, we're going to bring in a mechanic that lets him move then. So it's not really our design intent to go, let's teleport first. If there's a feature that's like, yeah, he should teleport, or if the gameplay says teleporting actually makes us more enjoyable, we then bring it in. If that makes sense.
Would you ever consider having something like the what are they called, like the way gates, or like the little portals that are around the map that the old ones created? Like Godwin Felix uses one of these in one of the books to get to Albion, for example. You just be able to travel from one point, kind of like the underways the dwarves have, they can unlock, but you know, for a little bit differently with chaos corruption, stuff like that.
I'd say that nothing's like off the table. Like if it's like appropriate for the setting and people want it, like we're always reconsidering what is this game. I mean, like if you go back, is it 10 years now to Warhammer 1? Oh,
almost 8, right?
Yeah, oh God, it feels like a decade. Yeah. If you go back, well, I guess from development it was a decade, but if you go back 8 years to Warhammer 1, that game and the game we have today, very different games. And that is like just a testament to the fact that like we are trying to always get better, and we are trying to take on more feedback. And as we get to like this huge Immortal Empires, if people say, hey, I really like playing as like, let's say Kislev, and I never get to experience like 2/3 of the map because of the way the start positions are set up, can we get a feature that lets us see more of the map? Like, we're not going to just categorically go, no, you must play where we say. Like, so like we'll try to add stuff in that like that helps people get around.
Well, this is me throwing that idea out there. Then just you know, hopefully it'll be manifest or something like that.
Hopefully it lands in the player experience team's box, and maybe it'll get slid onto my desk one day.
Yeah, I'll sit there with some incense on the email and just email spam you guys.
So, this DLC is the first one. I believe it's the first one to just completely, for lack of a better word, ignore Realms of Chaos. So is Realms of Chaos just being sunsetted and set on fire over the waterfall, as it were?
That's a way of putting it. I guess to a degree, like ideally we would do, like I said, in infinite time, infinite manpower, we would do everything all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But we looked at our metrics and it just didn't make sense for us to be committing as much time as we were. And we tried to scale back, like, can we still support Realm of Chaos and Thrones of Decay and strip back on how narrative heavy we go in that 3-way split? And if I'm honest, I think we got that wrong. Like, I think we didn't really deliver the narrative fantasy anyway. And we just, like, diverted a lot of resources that could have been spent in better places by making Immortal Empires better. So that's why we've made this change of, like, let's not, for lack of a better word, half-arse it. And, like, well, we'll put you in the campaign, but we won't give you the full narrative experience because that takes away, like, needed resources to make the core experience better. Let's just focus on the core experience. And we'll see, after Omens of Destruction has come out and we get all the feedback in, we can, like, reassess again. We were really reluctant to actually go full Immortal Empires because we thought, like, oh, we definitely can't do that. But it was based on player feedback where we basically kept seeing people say, like, can you just make Immortal Empires even better? Like, can you just focus on the one that I like to play? I was like, okay. So even that was, like, player-based feedback, really.
That's perfect, though. But the narrative experience, I think everybody likes the narrative experience, though. You guys think maybe bringing that more into Immortal Empires with, like, victory conditions and, like, midway objectives and stuff like that instead?
Yeah, I think, like, I think Mitch was, like, mentioned in, like, some of our dev videos. I don't even know what we call them, the dev updates. Mitch has mentioned, like, he's got loads of things on his list that he wants to tackle, and I think we all agree that, like, the victory conditions aren't as good as they could be, and the endgame crises were kind of, they didn't really tick the box either. Like, they appear with armies, like, that's, to be honest, like that's what they do. We had an idea of, like, can we make these, like, let's say, more, not even necessarily more narrative, but more thematic, more bring them into the campaign at different times so they don't feel quite as like, obviously scripted. And I don't know, like, where that lands on his priority list. Like I said, when I do my prioritization, it's primarily for, like, what's the DLC we're working on. Mitch has a different priority of, like, what's going to get, like, the best bang for buck in the timeline he has and the resources he has. But I could see the end games getting looked at some point in the future for sure. And with it, victory conditions. We actually, like, reduced the number of settlements needed for victory conditions to get a long victory in Omens of Destruction because we looked at the metrics and, like, a lot of people had ticked everything except 80 regions. And they were just like, it's just like, I hate just having to, like, conquer or sack or raise another 20 regions to, like, get a box ticked. It's like, well, that's fair. Yeah. We'll knock that number down. So.
Yeah, I had some really horrible campaign with Zhao Ming, and I had at turn 90 or something, I had fought, like, 170 battles or something like that because Gorst had come at me with, like, I don't even know, like, maybe 9 armies at a time or something. And then I had something like 27 settlements or something and 170 battles fought. So it's like, well, do I really want to just go and take the rest of the settlements?
Yeah.
But that's good that it's on you guys' list.
Are there any, just nipping back to Realms, is there any features from that you'd like to bring across? Like, we have talked a couple of times on here about, we quite like the Realms of Chaos as a concept, like going there, and the battle maps in particular are super cool, and the Cataclysm battles, what are they called again?
The Cataclysm spells.
Yeah.
But, like,
In the Realms of Chaos. We thought they were all really cool, so I would like to see them integrated somehow, whether it's part of the map or just a way to get around the map, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's another one that's, like, we're aware of. I think we've tried to bring in some of that content where we can. So when we did Gelt, we were like, well, we've got these Cataclysm spells that basically no one's using. Can we try to bring them into the campaign that people are using? So we are looking at opportunities. Getting the battle maps themselves to have, like, some kind of condition to appear as well. I know that has been something that people have looked at internally of, like, how can we make it make sense? Because we don't want it to just be like, oh, you fight in a corrupted region, this is the equivalent of the Realms of Chaos, because the Realms of Chaos are, like, so much further on another level. So, like, it, to be honest, it's more on Mitch's, like, docket of, like, what's he looking at, what's his priority, but we are 100% aware of it. I think for a while we were maybe a little bit like, the Realms of Chaos didn't come out with, like, the most positive reception for, like, the replayability of that loop. So I think probably for the first year of Warhammer 3, nobody was asking for that because they had seen those battles so often in those that gameplay loop so often. They're like, we just want Immortal Empires. But as like people are starting to play mostly Immortal Empires, they're like, well, like you said, there was elements we liked. Can you bring that back in? It is like slowly creeping up our list of what can we do? Is there somewhere else that we can get this in? Because it is good content. It's just not on people's preferred campaign, like you say. So
yeah, I think if the maps were to come back, it would have to be in some sort of rework. You couldn't just have it be the exact same maps with the exact same battles. Maybe just like a section at the tippity top, and you go through a little thing, and then it's like a little portal thing, and you're in the realms of them. I don't know. You guys, the developers, not me. I'll leave it to you.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I've seen that suggestion. So, like, you say you're not developers, but we're all just like coming up with ideas at the same time, and every idea has the potential to be a good idea. I've also pitched loads of bad ideas, so there's no like skill floor, skill ceiling on pitching designs.
Yeah, well, you miss 100% there. Shots you don't take, as they say.
Yeah.
Well, we already touched on the Crises, but that was not next on the list of questions. How do you guys feel about the Crises? Like, do you want to revisit them maybe at some point?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, I touched on it a little bit. Like I think some of them are better than others. Like the Chaos Dwarf one, where there's like an objective to it. I think those ones are a bit more engaging. But the ones where we just supercharge a faction, it did the job for what we wanted, which was to add in a kind of end game threat. Which from Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2, we had Chaos be the end game threat. It didn't really make sense in Warhammer 3 because we'd already brought all of them onto the map. So we knew we needed something. And it like technically ticked the box, but it's definitely something like, yeah, it could be better though. So it's on our, like I said, it's on our radar.
Have you this may seem out of left field. Have you played much Stellaris?
I've played some Stellaris, yeah.
There's an option, one of the DLCs, to become the Crisis. I think it would be kind of cool to see something like that. Like if you're playing as a Archaeon, you get a certain amount of something, and it's like, right, you become the Crisis, you confederate all the other Chaos factions or Warriors of Chaos factions, and then just steamroll the world. That'd be a cool power fantasy to see. It's an option.
You're saying that you're not the Crisis anyway. Whenever I play Archaeon, I'm always the Crisis.
But just make it official.
Let's get a title. Let's get a little pop-up. You are now the Crisis.
Congratulations. Some confetti on screen.
It's actually my favorite due to play. I've done like 2 subathons with just playing Archaeon, like without sleep or anything like that, like 33 hours just straight just sitting there.
Chaos God's got you good.
Yeah, I mean, like it's really hard though. I definitely underestimated how big the map actually is to try, because I always try to conquer the map in one sitting then, and it's just like I'm not sure how good that's how well you could do that. That's still entertaining without order solving actually everything, because it's a humongous one.
I'll conclude. I've never conquered the entire Immortal Empires map. I hit my victory conditions and I move on to the next one. That is some commitment. When I see it on Reddit, people are like, oh yeah, I've just got a full domination world map as like, world clear as Astragoth. I'm like, damn, power to you. But I ain't doing that.
Yeah, same. I just tried it those 2 times, but I got to like 380 settlements, something like that in one sitting. So I felt like that was okay. And then I was like, just felt the sleep deprivation hit me. I was like, nah, I'm not doing the rest. What factions do you think should get like a little rework, like in your own opinion?
My stock, like, I'll answer properly. My stock statement is like infinite time, infinite people. We would look at everyone again, because every time we rework someone, I saw people not complain, but like flag, oh, it's a shame that Vampire Counts were the first people that got an update when we did the Bloodlines, because that meant that they were bottom of the pecking order for when we went back for everything else. And it's like, that's not really how we work. You can look at dwarves and see that like you don't get reset to the bottom of the list, because we obviously did a few things with dwarves in a row. But I think Vampire Counts out someone. Norsk is another. But I think like
Vampire Counts.
They could be updated for sure. Yeah, Norska was a weird one where like they got super unlucky. Like in Warhammer 1, obviously the way that the map conquer worked was like Greenskins, dwarves had territory, Empire, Vampire Counts had territory, couldn't like swap sides. Like you couldn't mix. You just had to raise it. And then Norska's special thing was like, oh, you can go anywhere regardless of climate as long as it's port. Come Warhammer 2, everyone can conquer everywhere, except Norska, because their special mechanic actually made them a restricted mechanic in Warhammer 2. So like we kind of fixed that in 3 by like, yeah, you can conquer anywhere now. That's resolved, but it wasn't like a full rework. So they're on the list. I won't tell you exactly what number they are on the list, but they're on the list.
I'm looking forward to the vampire counts one though. That would be like printing money for you guys. Dang, I think everyone would love a vampire one.
I'm so excited. I love vampire counts.
Everyone's just waiting for Nagash.
Yeah. Well, vampire counts. There's room for us to do some tweaks to them before even like a full rework now. So some new tech we got. Some boring stuff if anyone's interested in like the tech of how the game works.
Oh, we love this.
Yeah, so the way the raise dead mechanic currently works in live is that it's just a flat chance for every type of unit. So if it's a zombie or if it's a blood knight or it's a Vargulf, they all have the same number, and that's modified by lots of things. Which is obviously a problem when you fight against them, that the Vargulfs are coming back after you've just like beat them down, they're finally dead. Oh, the best unit's back. That's annoying. So when we did the demonic reforging, we changed the system so that we can pick specific like percent chances per unit basis. So we can now make it that like the lower tier units, they come back relatively common. The higher tier ones don't. So I don't think we've done it yet, but we can look in a patch to go, okay, for Ghost, let his zombies come back. Like that's fine. But yeah, the Blood Knights, if you do kill a Blood Knight, the chance of that coming back should be really low because it's like really tedious to fight that a second time. So they're getting like maybe a small update, but not a full rework just yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have some different chances for the different lords, definitely.
Another nerf for the vampire counts.
Or is it a buff though? Is it a buff? Because we nerfed them in around Chaos Dwarves time because their raised dead chance was just like way too high across the board. So I don't know how the numbers are going to go exactly. We'll leave that to the patch team, but it might just be a case of we leave the current baseline and we buff the lower tier units to be more likely. Or maybe it's the way around. I don't know. Leave that to them to figure out.
Yeah, we have a lot of thoughts on the vampire counts. I love the vampire counts though, but would definitely love to see them get some love. Like they're actually I don't know if you probably know this already, but for everyone there at home, vampire counts are the only ones in battle that can actually destroy walls in a settlement battle. Still, everyone else has like something for us. Well, fun facts.
Poor guys.
I'll be honest, I didn't know that.
I play them a lot. They also have really bad auto resolve, really, really bad.
Auto resolve is a tricky one.
Yeah, that I definitely guess.
When you've got like 2,000 unit records and like another like 2,000 unit abilities that all like factor into it, and then all of the techs and the skills and everything, like.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely never get angry at stuff like that, not in that way, because I play a lot of StarCrafts too, and that one got like balanced for like 12 years and was 3 factions. You guys are trying to balance like 100 factions now, and it's just, it's not something I envy, not in the slightest.
Yeah. Fortunately, it's not my job to do that. Someone else does that. So if you want to get mad, I don't mind. I'm like, yeah, not my problem. You guys can rant if you want.
I was more thinking like, how are you guys choosing the victory conditions? Like, why does it vary in that regard? Like, for example, now on the current patch, I just checked it yesterday. Like, Skarsnik, for example, has to get 60 settlements, right? And Gorbat has to get 60 settlements and a couple of specific places and do a couple of big plans, stuff like that. Like, how do you guys? What's the process for you giving victory conditions to things?
I'll be honest. We have different designers. Do different ones, so the process can be different between people. To go back to another point, like everyone's got their own thoughts and own ideas, and we don't like factory farm out how they must be done. So that you'll see variety just because a different person did it and had a different opinion. But generally, the idea is the standard stuff, which is like get a certain number of regions. If they've got an appropriate location that they should have. So in Gorbad's case, it's like he thematically does raise Solent. He does go after the Empire. So we try to encourage like going there. But also he's like the biggest War ever guy. So it's like, well, he needs to have some kind of base in the Badlands as well to like capture that he's the main orc. And then we like to get the features in there as well to just like encourage the use of the feature. Generally, I wish all of our victory conditions like tied into like a feature set if the character has a feature set, and ideally everyone had their own feature, right? Like, as much as possible. But when we eventually take a look at like how the victory conditions work, the mindset there could be completely different. I don't know what that would be, but like all I can say is right now there isn't like a single thought process. It's just lawfully in the tabletop. Were they associated with a place? Did they do a cool thing that we want you to try and emulate? And do they have a feature that we'd like you to use to some degree to be like, hey, you engage with the feature, good job. That's a more engaging victory than just like 1,000 settlements.
I think we're told that you don't play much with mods. High recommendation. Take it or leave it. The Victory Conditions Overhaul mod does some really cool stuff. It'd be good to see some inspiration taken from those guys. They cook, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm aware of like a lot of our coolest mods. I don't play with them myself because the vast majority of my playtime is during work hours. So
it's part of your job, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty big part of the job. I don't have mods enabled. I do play it for fun, but when I do, I tend to play like multiplayer campaigns with my friends. So even then, like the victory conditions are a bit less. It's just more us agreeing what are we aiming to do. But yeah, I think it's a cool mod. I mean, there's some stuff that like ideally we'd make them redundant. So like the better camera mod, like in the future, I'd like us to just have a camera setting that like ticks all these boxes. So sometimes a bit like how the player experience team helps us find out like what a player is looking to see. A source of that is just like popular mods. Like if there's a mod that's really popular, what's the reason that we haven't made it part of the game? Is there like obviously overhauls like SFO or Radius, where like we're not going to do that because we have an intent for our game. But for like individual mods that do a specific thing, like we might just say like that's a great idea. Let's put it on our like plan of how would we achieve that idea.
I have one question here, but it's more of a meme question. Why did you give Arbal Wulfrik's mechanic?
Did we?
I mean, it's more of a meme. I've actually propositioned that.
Yeah, Wulfrik needs a boat. Arbal doesn't need no boat. So, you know.
I guess. I mean, I've propositioned that exact mechanic for Wulfrik a couple of times on this podcast. So I just wanted to ask that one for. So we have that out there.
Never say never. Maybe Wulfrik will one day get his magic boat. That will let him.
One day.
Yeah. No time for him. Or maybe we won't now. Just as like to continue your ongoing rant, we'll never do it. You know, maybe that's maybe it's your fault that it didn't happen. That could be
no. That would be so awful.
Just a cheeky wrap-up question, which is, which of the Chaos Gods, I suppose there are other gods, if you want a non-Chaos God, would you follow?
A non-Chaos God? The Great Horn.
No, we have to be Chaos Gods. Non-Chaos Gods, they would always be like something boring. It has to be a Chaos God.
Okay. It has to be a Chaos God. Wow, really restricted me away from the Great Horn Rat, which is kind of unfair.
I mean, technically, he's a minor Chaos God.
Is he?
Yeah,
I think there's some weird like technicalities around where he sits in Warhammer Fantasy. But from the big four, I guess
he's like under the table of the big four, I think.
Yeah. The big four, Khorne. I wouldn't say I'm a particularly bloodthirsty guy, so probably not Khorne. I don't like being sick, even if like I'd be feeling immune from them, so not Nurgle. Leaves me with Slaanesh or Tzeentch, but there's too many connotations of Slaanesh, so I'll just go with Tzeentch.
That's our elimination.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, thank you for your time, Sean. This was good.
It's been a pleasure.
Happy to do it. Cool.
Thank you for what do you say? Weathering our questions and our personalities for this time, and
which is tougher to deal with. That's the big question, you know. So
I'd rather not get an answer for that one. So thank you very much, and we'll pass over to future us, I guess.
Yep.
Hi.
Right. Welcome everybody to the second part of this video, the interview. Monsters could not join us in the first part because he had to go and look at the grass. True story. And believe it or not, And well, now we're just going to discuss a little bit of the answers with our dear friend Moss, because we were actually very sad that he could not join us for the first parts. So, what did you guys think of the interview?
Oh, monsters.
Yeah, you watched it,
I
right?
watched it twice. It was good. It was, there was some of the. I think generally it was fine. I think the problem is that it's very hard to sort of get. What you want is some real like in-depth information, and you're just never going to get that from CA. It's always going to be fairly surface level stuff. But there was some interesting things I took away from that. Particularly things like the Crisis and the Realms of Chaos responses, I thought was quite interesting. Yeah. And I also thought it was quite interesting that they didn't really see like the travel mechanics as something integral to the game, whereas I kind of feel different.
Mm-hmm.
Personally.
Well, it is very interesting, but let's go through them in... you've done really cool timestamps here for us. But first off, I just want to say like about the interview that I myself am a little disappointed at myself. I didn't like do the right like more questions for stuff, because I'm not gonna name any names, but we did have like a bunch of questions, and then I got it reformatted towards me again, and then I got it reformatted to me again, and some of the things got missing there, and I'm not mentioning any names obviously who did this, so we lost a couple of questions, but at this point I should have had this written down in a separate place, I guess. But other than that, like I think like we're obviously not professional interviewers, but I still think it was pretty interesting and very fun.
Yeah, I mean, like we knew the written down questions weren't ever going to be like you weren't going to get anything groundbreaking with those, because we had to send them to be approved first. So you're going to get an approved answer. So we tried to like in the follow-ups get some more details, and I think that generally like kind of worked for some of the things. Like when we asked him about Realms of Chaos, he's like, I always seen more play feedback about that, and then we push him about something like, oh well, you know what, the battle maps and the cataclysm spells, and it's like, oh well, that's something we're considering quite heavily.
Yeah, I mean, like our job really was in the follow-up questions all the time. That's that didn't need pre-approving and things like that. But after a while, you also know that there's not much else to dig in. We can't like dig in every single answer for like 30 minutes and maybe guess something good. But most of the time, it's going to be like, I didn't work on that. Nice.
Sean is, to my knowledge, like relatively high up in the chain, but still like he doesn't do everything.
Yeah, obviously, like nobody can do everything all the time. And it really does highlight this interview really like highlights for myself how much of a collaborative experience working on the game must be.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy to me when it was like, the victory conditions are just done by like not just a random person, but they're just done by like different people. So there's no set format, which I thought was kind of like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah,
we get Doris from the canteen to do them sometimes, when she's not doing anything else.
I mean, like it's just somebody who makes it because it needs to get into the game, and it's like he says, it's money and time they have to always balance, and sometimes they don't have time for anything else. They just put in the whatever, I guess. So otherwise you have to.
I get with the victory conditions. I guess there's actually not very many people that ever hit them, to be honest. So they kind of feel like
just make them worse, and they're like, nobody's hitting them. Apparently, people don't know about it. Like we were discussing a difference today. Like I wonder how much data is skewed on these things. Like, nobody's hitting the victory conditions, so therefore we don't need to think about them. Nobody's playing Realms of Chaos, therefore we don't have to do a narrative because that's the big thing, and like so on and so forth. Because that's why I guess Reddit and the forum stuff like that is so good, so they actually know what the heck is happening, because otherwise they just hear somebody whine about something and everybody whines about everything all the time. So having somebody be angry about something and having 2,000 upvotes or people chiming in on it will definitely like put that up the list really fast. But we did get through it anyway, and I'm happy with how it turned out anyway.
I thought his answer of the gold standard faction was actually like, I pretty heavily agreed of it being is it Throt, the scientist rat?
Yeah.
And like he's a faction that doesn't force you, but highly encourages you to play a different playstyle. I think that is a very good option for CA to be aiming to get everyone to the same sort of level of complexity.
I mean, I didn't want to like. I felt like I could either push back, but it felt more like mean because Throt is better with guns as well, because the guns and rattling guns and everything like that is just so goddamn strong.
Well, yeah.
That that's having mutated rat stuff that is also like really good. Like you're gonna win everything as soon as you get like cellular instability and things like that. But like the guns are just better still. But I do agree that it's a very good faction. You have all the mechanics, not too OP. It's kind of well balanced in that regard for an OP faction.
Skaven have generally their sort of racial mechanics are quite good anyway. And then you build Throt on top, which is basically the mechanic of let's make units that are not often played more fun. You can't really go wrong with that. Although I did think it was interesting comparing like the idea of make units that you don't usually play fun, and then comparing that with Gorbad, who I have some thoughts about later.
Do you think he's Gorbad?
I don't think he's Gorbad. I think he's Gore a bit boring in places.
It's like word for word the joke that I wrote in my review. It's just it's so simple.
The first one though was what the decision making process for getting things like Scarsnick Stalk into the game and things like that. We didn't really get an answer to that though. It's more like, yeah, now we can because they had new technology for it, which was really cool actually. They put that into patch notes as well. So man, if we would have done this fast, we could have had like a first one to report that.
I do think it was interesting the way they went, well, we couldn't do that before, and we've had to build it in. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's an like there was a limitation there, and they've managed to kind of go, oh, we'll overcome that.
So when that siege bug technology gets discovered, you are going to be in for a treat.
Oh, can you imagine?
But it's also really interesting because ever from the get-go, Alithanar was said to be the only one to have a Stalk stance in his faction. And one could think that they would have found that out before they shipped that and started saying that, right? But they hadn't thought much about travel mechanics either. Like, they probably get very mixed stuff about that because I was reading on the R-ball, no, on the release blog or something, where one of the first response on it is just, oh, more teleporting. You're ruining the game. Because traveling the map, and the map is so good, is integral part to the game, because the game is a map game. And I mean, I see their points, and I do agree with them, but you have to make. I think you can still have a good mix of both for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think too many teleportation mechanics. Like if anyone could just teleport anywhere, that'd just be kind of destroy the point of the game. But I don't know, like, yeah, it's a map game, but do I really want to walk all the way across, like, the entire old world to get Cathay? Or would I rather there's, like, a rift I can go into that's in the middle of the old world that takes me to the middle of Cathay? And just make getting around the gargantuan map easier. Because if you just try and walk, you're just going to get attacked by someone and die instantly and waste a bunch of turns walking.
Yeah. I also liked how he did seem kind of sick of the discussion of the Realms of Chaos. In the way like, oh, can't we travel there and can't you get them in there? And it felt like definitely they had some technical limitation down, and they just can't figure out how to bring that back. It's like, When I pitched him our Realms of Chaos idea, you could just see his face like, no, dummy, stupid idea. No, but not super. Like he probably had that discussion before as well.
Yeah.
I think they probably talked about that one. What's really interesting though to hear about how the Realms of Chaos is something people now want kind of back, like some of the stuff, like when they go in there and play it, it gets too much, but people want it still a little bit, and that's really, really interesting, that as well. Like really interesting how people respond to that in hindsight as well. Because everybody hates it first, and now that nobody gets it, it's like, well, we can have a little bit. Like it's kind of cool though.
A little bit of Realms as a treat.
I think part of it was the fact that it was a forced thing, wasn't it? It was like, no, you have to go here. You have to do this. And I think if it was a much more sort of like, well, here's an optional thing that will give you some nice reward. And I think the key is here, nice rewards. Mm-hmm. I think that could work. You know, I would love a thing where it's a bit more like there's a lot of risk to going in here. Like you will have trouble, but if you succeed, here's some nice rewards for you.
I think
That will help you along the way.
rewards are definitely an area that we could have like a whole damn episode on, because my god, the game does not reward certain actions very well.
No, it does not.
Missions, contracts, most quests.
On the other hand, I was playing Golgfag, and I did end up with so much money that I was actually, I don't know what to do with this, to be honest. But I think that was mostly from selling settlements back. I don't think it was like the reward so much. I think it was literally just a case that I was constantly selling settlements back. And so I was getting all that money, and because the only Golgfag himself can teleport, and I was like, well, if I want to go and do, if I'm in Kislev and I want to go and do a contract for, who do I do a contract for? Katet. I've got to teleport him over there, and then any other armies, I guess, will walk then, or join you in like 15 to 20 turns. By which point you're probably done, and you might teleport over the other side. And you just end up with like chasing them all over the map again.
Yeah, I mean, like that campaign is definitely one of those things where I actually love the Man-Eater, because it's such a cool thing, and the ogres are so much better now. But dang, do they need to like tune those things away? Like at turn 35, I had 250,000 in the bank and 3 fully like made up camps. It's like, yeah, that needs tuning, or like I think, okay, that's not okay.
He's definitely my favorite Lord of the three. Like I know Sean said that his favorite was Skulltaker.
Skulltaker.
Is it just strange to me that he doesn't have a name? He's not called like Rodney the Skulltaker.
Usul.
Why isn't he called that?
Skulltaker.
He's like Prince. He's just got.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's so weird. Anyway.
No, his name is Usul Skulltaker.
Well, it's not in the game, is it?
I think that's because isn't the Slayer of Kings?
Yeah, that demon is also called Usul.
Is also called Usul. So it's like.
But it's one of those things like that nobody knows if they have a relation or if anything like that. It's just maybe it's like a common Joe for
like
demons. Just John for demons.
The beginning of every single one of my episodes, I always go, this part thingy of my Gorbads, and I went Iron. Oh Christ, what is it?
Claw.
Fist? No, that's Ungrim.
Tooth?
No, that's Grimgore. Claw. You're like, Jesus Christ, GW were not great with the naming, were they? They were very sort of iron something, throw it at a dartboard. What do we get? Yeah, that'll do, whatever.
Just throw a dice into an armory, and then there's iron plates. All right.
In face? Sure, whatever.
Iron mask. Oh, nice.
But yeah, Golgi the Man Muncher. It's such a fresh campaign. It's not hard. You don't make any settlements. You get your camps, you pack them up, and then you just rotate them out as you go around. It's just fun. It's not complex. It's just good fun.
What I liked is that it was probably one of the few campaigns where I felt like I had a lot of agency. It was very much like, right, what do I want to do? It wasn't, I guess, my next door neighbor has declared war on me. Guess we're going that way now. It was, okay, great. What do I want to do? Which is very freeing.
Yeah,
to most campaigns.
But it did feel like if you gifted your clients settlements, you got way too much money, but it also did not count as a settlement for victory conditions.
It didn't, did it?
Oh.
No. So after like the second day of my Man-Eater campaign, I was like, oh, well, I have like 50,000 in the bank because I try to use all of it all the time, and I have like the best stuff and everything like that. How far along am I? 3 out of 30 for sure. So I'm like, oh.
Yes, I know. I hit the same thing. I looked at it and went, oh,
that's so
I'm doing that then.
Maybe I'll go for the no. God, what a baffling decision.
It feels like a massive oversight, in my opinion. It just felt like someone went, yeah, we'll just give him the same victory conditions without thinking, wait, he doesn't actually do that very much, though, does he?
It does seem very much like the faction gets made, and then they're about to ship it, and like pressing the button, like, victory conditions! Oh, shit! Sure. And then there's no more thought.
Boris doesn't play much Total War, that's the problem. So she just thought this will be fine. Just went into it and didn't really...
She just makes all the jacket potatoes and beans.
But my guess is that they have like a template of code, and there's like victory conditions, copy paste. And if you have someone like Uwu Tamur-chan, then you have to like do a new code for like do null and do chieftain battles and stuff like that. It's my guess. So then it's like 60 settlements.
I'm not saying I would
Yeah.
pay for a DLC, but if they did a big fat update that was just like the victory conditions update, I would.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
I mean, just victory conditions and like have, 5 more soundtracks of music or something. It would be so cool.
And make the soundtrack purchasable. I don't know why they don't do that.
It's because there's no official mix, because the game actually mixes the stuff as it goes along. So it's all dynamic, like really. So you have no official mix on it. That's why you can't see it anywhere else. For Warhammer, it's kind of fun.
I mean, yeah, but there's got to be an MP3 or something in there. Then you can just like fade in, fade out.
It's weird.
They could also
considering
fix.
We've got like, did you get the Pharaoh was it Pharaoh or Troy? LP,
Troy.
like the album. So they've done it for that, but not for Warhammer.
Yeah, I have the one for 3 Kingdoms.
Fancy.
Yeah. But it was also funny because in one of the Keyslive soundtracks at the start of the game, they would have like this really, really high-pitched shrieking noise, like in like the battles. And it just makes... I can't stand it. I don't understand how anyone else can stand it. It's like the worst noise in the world. It's just so loud. Like every time I heard it, I just wanted to like forcefully vomit. It was just... it's so horrible. So horrible. And then like I complained about it a ton, and then it got toned down. It's really nice. So now you don't hear it as much because like dynamically you just like change that awful horrific screeching noise.
Well done.
Makes sense.
This is a good claim to fame.
Yeah. Taste it.
Well, probably not just me that had that. If I have that reaction, maybe somebody else was like, it's a little bit loud.
I really did love when you asked him, why did you give Arbol Wulfrik's mechanic?
Yeah.
I could just see like the cogs in your head, like, should I ask this? Yeah. And then he was just like, how do I answer that?
Yeah, I know. It's like I could have done so many meme questions, and I had a couple of meme questions as well. But it's you gotta choose which ones you want to ask, right?
Yeah, we for legal reasons, we're not allowed to ask about any upcoming projects, so that's why we didn't. Believe we would have liked to, but we're not able to. And if we did, Josh would have shot us and shot.
Yeah, Josh would have shot everyone. He is brutal, and that's why I didn't get to see his face.
Mm-hmm.
You could try to catch me.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking shadow.
How do you hide?
But faction reworks were fun to ask him about, though, because clearly he's also like not happy with some of them.
Mm-hmm.
It was also fun to get like another jab in for another nerf for the vampire counts. Because they only get nerfs. People are like, oh, power creep, and then Vlad gets like nerfed after 6 years or something.
Oh, the one thing that the vampire counts have that's fun. Let me get rid of that.
Yeah, it's like Malice. The only thing he had going for him was like being able to do a one-man army. Now it's just worse.
I was thinking the vampire counts are not in a great place at the moment. I was playing my Gorbad campaign and I buffed my Black Orcs so they had 86 weapon strength and something like 60 melee attack. And I thought, what do the vampire counts have that would actually be able to deal with this? And the answer was nothing. They've got nothing. Basically, I could just recruit an entire army of them and watch the vampire counts march endless waves of armies into this mincing machine. And they would have nothing that could deal with that. Like, they've got no response. They can't even shoot it to death because they've only got Sylvanian crossbowmen.
They have Sylvanian handgunners eventually.
But like I said, Sean, vampires are the only ones who can't destroy walls in sieges.
Yeah, when he said I didn't know that, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, no, like it's one of those things, right? That people just don't think about, because people might say, oh, but Wood Elves can't either. Like, Wood Elves actually can, yeah. With Sisters of Twilight, they get the Invocation of Wall as well, with stuff, so they can break walls if they want to. And Kaodil also can, I'm fairly sure. Or maybe it's just for that one battle, but it doesn't matter. They get the invocation anyway.
Not the vampire counts really need to knock down walls. They've got Vargeists and Felbats. As soon as you throw anything flying towards the wall, any AI unit on the wall immediately goes, I'm out, and leaves.
Well, I'm still going to say, why wouldn't they be able to if everybody else can, right? Like a faction, every faction is playable on the hardest difficulty, even with difficulty mods. You still can win it on Legendary. But relatively speaking, it can be weaker than a lot of other things.
Oh, absolutely. I genuinely think the vampire counts for a faction that have been left behind considerably. I think when Warhammer 1 came out, they were the one without any missile units, but that was okay because they obviously had the wave assault. They had those quite nasty monsters. I remember people saying like,
hammer and anvil.
Yeah, and I remember people saying like the vampire counts is basically that scene from Cabin in the Wood, where that like the lift doors open, all these monsters like rip the soldiers apart. It's basically that. But now it's kind of like the other way around.
It's like the start of a Men in Black with a big bug and then just gets splattered on a windscreen.
Yeah,
exactly. It just gets absolutely annihilated.
Yeah, I mean, like everything had a clear weakness in Warhammer 1. Like the orcs didn't have clear anti-large. The dwarves didn't have cavalry. Empire was the jack of all trades, but weaker at everything. And that was just like how it was. But now we have stuff that is just like Cathay and High Elves, for example, just became better Empire. Like jack of all trades, but better with everything. But High Elves still didn't have like good artillery, at least. But Cathay is just better at everything anyway.
Yeah, I really would like to see a Vampire Counts rework. To be honest, I would like to see Vampire Counts, Vampire Coast, and Tomb Kings.
Just full undead rework.
I want to do an episode just about vampires. I read about like a 4-way or 5 or 6, like just talk about champions and mechanics for vampires, honestly, because that's something I would just really want to do.
We should have done that for Halloween. Why didn't you bring this up beforehand? We could have all dressed as vampire.
I mean, we can do it next year. They're not getting a rework.
We can't even get you out of the bathrobe, and you're like, I could be a vampire.
I put fake fans in. It's fine.
We had to be 3 people, just like peer pressure you into like having the shirt on top of your bathrobe.
It worked. Peer pressure works. It briefly.
But it was really, really interesting to hear about that one. That also, and which one would you have liked more time on was Gorbad. And I can definitely feel that. Gorbad is for sure like the one that did not have as much time. The other ones are like it's weird with these things because the other ones are much easier campaigns, like tremendously easier. Mm-hmm. But are they more fun though? Because I don't know how many times you're gonna be wanting to play as the other ones who teleport around, because they're very like chillax and romp campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I think what Sean was saying was that he thinks that greenskins probably needed the least amount of sort of help, and I think that's true because I think the greenskin mechanics of like basically the scrap works really well. I like the fact you can do more than one now. That feels good. The I still have an issue with the wars, but I think it's fine. I think it works okay. And I mean, overall, they work as a faction. I think Khorne needed the most help, mostly because, well, no, the ogres needed probably the most help, but Khorne was also in a fairly bad place. It's just they only had one lord, and Scarbrand was fun anyway because you just go around kicking people's heads in. But Khorne as like a faction, I think, was in a really weird place, and I think it's in a much better place now. So I think they did manage to make that better. And the ogres again needed a lot of help, but the greenskins were kind of like, yeah, they're fine. But Gorbad's mechanic is
boring.
I think like Khorne, they should still go even heavier and like almost remove blood hosts. It's it becomes like such a weird campaign with them anyway. I hate using them because you just have like a bunch of faceless goons just rushing into battle and you don't care about them, and you can have just 5 million of those if you want to. And it just becomes 5-hour turns.
I can see why they chose greenskins as like we don't have to do a lot for them, so we'll just do these little bits because the ogres really did need it. So I imagine that's like 70% of the work went onto the ogres or something crazy. But first of all, did you notice that the ogre tree is the greenskin tree? I believe it's now a longer scroll than it was. I think they might have extended it. They also
removed the funny lines from it, which I'm really sad about. They used to have like, maybe we should give these goblins some encouragement. Then the next tech would be like, no, don't. We made a mistake. It's like beat them into their place. It was really funny. I liked it, and they removed that one.
Yeah, the Khorne rework was just more of like a tweaking of his mechanics so they actually work. Like Drawn to Destruction, I kind of forgot how bad that was until I went to get the old clips, and I was like, wow, this fucking sucks. I just got sick of waiting for it. Excuse me. I just got sick of waiting for it to work. And but did you know that like Skybrand just like doesn't have anything really unique about him now, apart from like his blood hosts last a little bit longer? He doesn't have a mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, like he
So
buffs
saying.
Soul Grinders and Bloodthirsters
Well,
now,
yeah,
so I
but-
give them Gore Feast, which is, I mean, those are actually really strong. Like Bloodthirsters with him, like do work now. So Bloodthirsters, they're are pretty fun. So they're like, he just watches his brethren who are still able to fly and just like going for the skies again or something.
I mean, yeah, it's just kind of upsetting that the ogres both got a new mechanic, and fair enough, they're not that in depth. But then Skybrand just like, and these units, these 2 endgame units, I make them better. That's it. I ain't got
I
nothing.
mean, like Grimgor and Asag as well didn't get much love.
Well, yeah, but it's like you're never going to give something to like 4 or 5 greenskins. It's one guy. Give him something. It's just one dude.
Yeah. Even Grom got some stuff as well. Like his cauldron now affects night goblins as well as regular goblins.
Ooh, does it?
Yeah,
Ooh.
it's really good actually.
But Night Goblin Archers is going to be cracked.
Yeah, probably.
Anyway, yeah, feels bad. Paul Skybrand.
Skarsnik got the stalking stance, which is really cool.
It's
as
great
we
when he
already
said
talked
that basically added because his friend was like, could you do that? And he was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, I was going to talk about how Final Fantasy VII was like, the creator of that one spoke to his friend, and he had said like, oh, I never play a video game if there's no like pretty people in it, if they're not pretty or really cool. And he was like, okay, I'm going to make everyone really pretty or really cool.
Is that the remake?
No, like for the original one, and then for art
Everyone
and
was
stuff like that.
polygons. You couldn't tell.
Well, no,
You've seen the
there's
artwork.
some beautiful polygons.
Back in the day, you had manuals. You had manuals and stuff like that with everything. Like the
I
old
used to-
Warcraft 2 manuals that had like the comic book art and stuff like that.
I used to love reading the manual. Like get a new game from Granger Games or something. Big ups. Shout out. Absolutely out of business. And just be sat in the back of your parents' car reading the. Well, obviously you two are probably a bit old for that, but just
No,
reading
we
it.
had cars when we were growing up.
Yeah, we had cross.
Well, you went on the back of a penny farthing or something. That'd be sick. It's like an N64 cartridge on the back of a penny farthing. Like, oh wow.
Dangerous. No, I remember taking. I remember the oh god, what was it? The Warcraft. No, StarCraft manual.
Oh, yeah.
StarCraft manual had like the whole story in it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing reading through it. Amazing stuff. Love that stuff. Baldur's Gate had a massive manual as well. Love that shit.
And now you just don't get anything in the box.
No.
Unless you get a special edition.
If you're lucky, you get a PDF.
Like when you get Nintendo Switch physical games, like first party releases, you just get like the game and that's it. There's even like a little clip and it's just empty.
And nowadays it's like 4-hour lore videos instead, and they're like, "This is what you would discover the story if you would have farmed 5 hours of rusty spoons. You would find this information on the rusty spoons, and this is peak storytelling. If you're invested, you know."
Please stop. Why are you licking like my actual like throat? Oh goodness me.
Because he misses the lady of the house.
He
that's
does. He does. He got in bed yesterday and he was looking around. It was really sad.
why. Aw.
It's also making me sweat quite a lot because he's very thick.
Okay. So, what do you think about what you said about the Crisis?
Well, it didn't say much, right? It was more like, yeah, they're not where we want them to be, and
Yeah.
they want to keep on working on them. But also, that's Mitch's problem, right?
Well, I felt it was a bold thing to say that way. Why we want to work on them when the last thing they did to them was the Chaos Dwarves.
Yeah,
Which
that was also the
was-
best one.
Yeah.
Was the
which was-
Vermintide maybe the last one? Can't remember. One of them.
Well, yeah, when did they add that in? Was the Chaos Dwarf the last one, or was it Vermintide? I mean, the Vermintide basically just does effectively the same thing. It just also, if you are a goody faction, gives you like a little quest beforehand, doesn't it? Which then,
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't seem
I
convinced.
mean,
by
Chaos
the way.
Dwarfs are still the best one because you can just teleport there and they can put it into it.
teleports are ruining the game.
Well, it's just you need a clear objective to destroy stuff.
Yeah.
And I was playing Gorbat today, And Queek went to war with me. Then the Calls of Pyrotechnics spawned in my territory and started messing things up at like turn 15 with like, 7 steam tanks and only what were Hellfire rockets batteries. And then Skarsnik came around as well. And obviously it took a long time to destroy all of those steam tanks with like goblins and things like that. And Queek, I'm still fighting. I'm gonna like continue fighting Queek tomorrow and probably the day after or something. But Skarsnik, I found Skarsnik, searched for him, killed him. I have all of his territories. Like everything is fine. Strategic striking, and it works. Same thing with the Chaos Dwarfs. You go there and you fight them. It's not like
if you're playing as a green skin and you have the Greatest War, can you basically take all the green skin factions over just by kicking the shit out of them?
Yeah, and they don't have upkeep their Crisis armies.
Great. Nice one.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's 100% something you can do.
He didn't seem too convinced by my Become the Crisis. He was like, well, you can do that anyway when you're playing Archaon. Don't need to make it that official, but I don't know. I'll have to agree to disagree on that one.
I mean, like I've tried to take over all the world in just one sitting, like 2 times, and I got really far. So you can do quite a lot with Archaon.
Well, yeah, but it'd be nice to have something official where it's just like, oh, everyone who follows Chaos now follows you.
Well, isn't that already his mechanic that every vassal you have, the more they like you?
Yeah, but you just confederate like. Although that'd be kind of annoying to have that much territory.
The player's kind of always the Crisis, regardless, right? Yeah. You're always going to be the one that turns up and is like, okay, hello,
you guys want to explain yourself, damneders? Give me a mechanic.
I just thought it'd be cool.
I think it would be nice if, like, because Archaon obviously had the trials that you had to complete. And if there was something where you kind of had to, do something to sort of achieve that. And at that point, maybe there was a few stragglers, like maybe Wulfrik was like, well, I'm not going to follow you. And you go, okay, then I guess I'm going to show you the business end of my Slayer of Kings or whatever it is. And, bops him. And then everyone was like, okay, well, I guess you are kind of the big boss then. And was then you vassalized. You kind of have that level of accomplishment that, look at what I've achieved. And now.
Yeah, it's the books are pretty cool about Archaon as well, like how he has to actually do everything and how he like wrestles a god and force ghosts and stuff like that, just so we can go and walk in love.
Bitch though, Christ.
He's dealt a pretty rough card in life, dude.
Oh, but he's so whiny about it.
Well,
he's like, oh look, they're trying to look the Church of Sigmar's trying to kill me. Why? Oh, they've got this prophecy where I'm going to become the Ever-Chosen. Well, fine, fuck it. I will then, just to prove them wrong.
No, but it's not that simple. God damn it!
It basically is. It basically is like, oh look, they're trying to kill me. They've burned my house down. What am I going to do about this? I guess I'll become the Ever-Chosen.
No, it's
to sort of show them.
He dedicated his life to Sigmar, and like he was a firm believer. He's done Sigmar's work for a long time. He's badass when he's just going around and murdering chaos things. Like he's really good at it. He devotes his entire time, and then his brothers betray him and hunt him like a dog, and everyone just hates him, and he doesn't know what he's done wrong.
With
like
good
he's dedicating, and like he doesn't know what he's done. He doesn't know why everyone betrayed him, and he even like tries to escape it. Like he tries to kill himself several times through the books, but he's just not even allowed to do that. So then he just goes, you know what? In that case, no one's gonna win. I'm gonna destroy the world, and the Chaos Gods aren't even getting new souls. Everyone loses.
He became black-pilled, is basically what happened. He's a whiny bitch black-pilled. That's all he is. It's such a...
I hate your take on this so much. so much. I mean, like, it's... Bang.
Like, I take your point, right? I take your point. Yes, they did betray him. Yes, they did try and kill him. They burned his house down. They killed all his servants and all that kind of shit. And then he was like, oh, you did it because I was fated to become the Ever-Chosen. And then he goes... oh well, I'd become the Ever-Chosen then. And that's the point where I went, well, you've lost me now. I'm sorry.
It wasn't really like he didn't really care about the house. He just went there for some downtime every once in a while because he inherited the house.
He's taking off his jacket to intimidate you monsters. Don't let him.
Just
roll up the steeds. I'm gonna...
just so he could, because he got the house because he his former master was like a bastard man, the biggest bastard man of them all, and then he like gets his house. He managed to do that via he lies about it to get nobility because otherwise he has to be a squire for all his life, and he's a good fighter. He shouldn't be a squire, right?
But that still doesn't stop the fact that he found out why they were hunting him, and then decided to just go, okay, then I guess I'll do. Thereby making the fact they tried to kill him completely valid.
So you know what I found really interesting in this interview?
Stop it, Danders. We're on to something here.
Speaking of narratives, it was very shocking to me. Their takeaway from people not liking Realms of Chaos was that people don't like narrative stuff, which I would disagree with. I just feel like they didn't like the repetitiveness. Like I think people wouldn't mind more narrative if it was the victory condition
say
based.
that though. What was it like? They wanted they couldn't focus on narratives or something like that.
I will admit the wording has escaped me, so if I'm misrepresenting it, I will apologize and will correct myself in post.
Do we need to do like a referee's replay just so we can check what?
God, yes.
Oh no, he says he's disappointed that they didn't deliver the narrative fantasy in Realms of Chaos. So I apologize. I'll shut up. Go back to arguing.
Mind like a steel trap.
All right, go back to arguing, I guess.
It's fine. We've argued Archaon into the ground. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't against the Realms of Chaos stuff. It's just I think they had an idea of what they wanted to try and achieve. I really think the Realm of Chaos like battles, like the I don't know what you call them, the big fights at the end.
The survival battles?
The survival battles. They were supposed to be sort of like campaign events, right? You were supposed to that was supposed to be sort of like a big cinematic fight for you, and I think that fell flat. And I can't help but feel
4 of them.
You had to do 4 of them, and then you had to do another. And the problem was that they weren't that great. I did enjoy the one we did in the preview with Kislev, but I'll be honest, the one I did as the Ogre Kingdoms, the Zinch one particularly, was legitimately the worst experience I've ever had in Total War. By far. Like, it's so far up there as like the worst time I've ever had.
Oh yeah, now I'm remembering. Yeah, because everything is shoots at you and you have to stand like your ground and stuff.
You have to stand your ground. They're constantly coming in from all directions and it just feels awful. Like, it feels horrendous. And the problem is it works for some factions and it falls flat on its face for others. So they had an idea there, and I'm not necessarily against the idea, but I think it has to be a little bit more sort of organic rather than here's this place and you do this thing and now you fight the same battle and you will do that 6 times, because that's how many factions are in this game at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, like it goes into a lot of stuff that CA does, which is just really good idea, poor execution. It got too repetitive. It got too bad, really. Like, had they had like one rift open throughout the campaign of Realms of Chaos, probably would have had a completely different story, right?
Yeah, the constant rifts opening and spewing demons into your lands. You were just encouraged to have like 2 provinces and just sit there and mash enter until they turned up again.
I mean, like you couldn't do anything else. You had like 1 province or 2 or something. That's all you could do.
You had, I mean, what I always found playing Realm of Chaos is you had 1 army, maybe 1.5 if you were lucky. And then as soon as the rift opened, your 1 army went into it, at which point the AI went, well, we've got several armies. So nice territory you've got there. Looks like free real estate to me. And then your guy would come out of the port going, I've done it. Oh, for fuck's sake, everything's on fire. And he's like, I guess I'll spend the next 20 turns retaking all the stuff, at which point the Realm of Chaos, and he's like, okay, here we go again. And you just do that forever until the end of the campaign, at which point you're like, well,
Yeah.
It was bad times. Everybody has to relive that trauma. I remember when I lost the Scarbrand campaign, like turn 73 or something. I was like, I can go and get like Minotaurs. That would be cool for the last battle. Turn 73, it's just like, you have lost. Like it was before they fixed it so that you could like challenge them or whatever it is. But then it was just turn 73, you've lost. And that was way too early because it's kind of RNG as well when it would happen. So it's just unlucky as heck.
I think the difference between that and the Vortex, and this is going way away from what we're talking about in the interview, but like Vortex, you started the ritual yourself, and then the enemies came to attack you because you'd done something. Whereas in Realms, it was just like, okay, the rift's open, enemies are coming, you can't do anything about it. If you go in there, you're in a worse position than you would be if you just sat there and didn't move, but you have to go in there to win, so good luck. You didn't have any choice in the matter. It just happened. The game happened to you instead of you doing things.
It railroaded you, and I think what they wanted to do was like have that, oh, but you can lose the campaign sort of hanging over you.
I don't think being able to lose is a bad thing. It's just if it works.
Yeah. I also think you need to be able to know... Could you tell how far along the other factions were?
I think you could see if they had like how many marks of chaos they had or whatever.
Yeah. But there was little way of actually like stopping them.
What we had to do is figure out where they were by going into it. Quick saving before you go into it, of course. See if they're there. They're not. Come back, quick load, and then do that 3 more times. At least that's how I remember it.
Yeah, it basically. I'm not against having that as a concept, but I think it worked better in the Vortex, where you could have more of effect on the campaign map. The Realm of Chaos always felt very, very localized because for some reason they decreased the amount of money you could make, didn't they? Like they basically slashed income across the board.
Yeah.
I think because they reduced the amount of money that you spent on logistics, so each additional army.
They rebalanced the economy completely.
Yeah, we'll give you no money, but you can have more than one army, except you won't because you won't have any money. But in theory, you could. So they do that, and then you end up with this situation where you have one good army and like maybe one trashy army, which can't deal with all of the additional AI armies who can recruit loads of stuff because they're AI.
It really goes into how, like the patch notes that were released a couple of days ago. That's Khorne, for example, now, or Scarbrand, or the other Khorne factions have twice the recruitment cost, for example, than Daniel would have for demons. And it's kind of like how they balance this, like recruitment costs were just through the roof, nobody got any money. And they tried to balance that, but then when Immortal Empires came out, they just didn't balance everybody else. So then the demons just had really bad economy until anyone got reworks.
Yeah, I think to bring this back, like narrative doesn't have to be railroaded. It just has to be like the option to take part in a greater, some sort of story as an option. Yeah. Because in Vortex, you didn't have to. You could just raise the world if you wanted. I mean, you do lose, but...
Yeah, like Tamer-chan. I think he has lovely victory conditions.
Yeah.
Do chieftain battles. Like, get those chieftain things up. Raise Nuln. Or, like, take over Nuln or something. That's it.
Yeah, victory conditions, in my opinion, are the best way to add narrative to Immortal Empires. Because then it's like, right, you have to go do this end goal. The story of getting there is your game. And that'll be different. It hopefully will be different for everyone. And that, I think them saying like, well, I don't think they actually said this, but if they don't like, people don't reach victory conditions, or people don't want narrative, it might just be because the stuff that's there isn't good. It's that, what's that bias called?
Survivor bias.
Yeah, survivorship bias, maybe. Like, no one's playing them because they're not good. It's not because they don't want to. It's just because they're not good. So everyone just sees them as like, I can't be asked doing that.
Yeah, I did play a mod, which was the High Elf Council building, which basically gives the mechanic a bit like the Chaos Dwarf Council type thing. And one of the really cool things about that was that there were events tied to certain confederations. So I confederated Imric, his faction was dead, and I got a little orbit snippet that he's a bit down on he's a bit down. He's a little bit sad because he was wiped out as a faction, and you get some options. Like, do you want to slap him around the face and tell him he's a little bitch, or do you want to give him a hug and tell him it's okay? And after that, I got like a little storyline, which was basically like Imric hearing about Miao Ying and wanting to tap that, and basically you kind of having to go, "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea," or "Hey, maybe we can facilitate this somehow." And you kind of get these. I know it sounds awful, but actually it worked really well. It's like as a little storyline. It was basically like a choose your own adventure. You didn't really have to do very much, apart from at one point it was like, do you send someone to go and sort of try and smooth over some diplomatic situation, and one of your mages was basically wounded for like 10 turns or something, and then when they came back they had a special trait that sort of was associated with the fact they'd been to Cathay and sort of been a diplomat and stuff. And I thought that was just, great. I loved that. I would like more of that stuff. It just made it feel like there was stuff happening in the world apart from, I was kicking the shit out of Malekith again for the 10th time in my life.
Yeah,
so I just think more of that stuff.
Is it the Phoenix Court?
Yes, that's the one.
I'll have a look at that.
That's a good one. I like that one. But I think we're gonna try to wrap it up a little bit because we don't need like an hour recording for what Sean said.
And also we're aiming to have another one of these about the DLC and what we actually think on it, which is why we haven't talked about it in this episode. They're too much.
So the only thing we asked later on is what Chaos God would you guys have? Damneders.
Probably Papa Nurgle. I've normally got something that I'm complaining about, so at least that way I'd be like, happy about it. It just seems like a hippie Nurgle to me. Like, I don't know the lore that much, so by all means I could be wrong, but it just seems like, spread the love, baby, and then just
when we're asking about which Chaos Gods you would follow, there are no right answers.
Oh, sorry.
There is, and it's Nurgle.
Yeah,
he is the best Chaos God.
He just seems nice.
By far. He's just a nice, chill guy. He just gets on with it. He's doing his own thing. All of his demons and all of his followers look fucking horrific. Okay, here's the problem, right? Khorne, he's just a bit boring. He's just a red demon, right? We've seen this before. It's fine. Baseline. Then you've got Tzeentch. Now, he's the other way. He's just way too zany. Like, you have no idea what's going on with him. Like, you don't really know what Tzeentch is, which is why Sean chose Tzeentch, because he's easy. You've got Slaanesh, and the problem with Slaanesh is it's tits and snakes. And that's fine if you like tits and snakes, all right? I get it. And I know some people are going to go, no, it's all about perfection and obsession. It's like, no, it's tits and snakes.
It's excess. It's excess.
It's not. It's snakes with tits. Let's be honest with ourselves. And so then the only other option is Nurgle, who is the more interesting Chaos God.
The only Warhammer book I've ever bought is a Nurgle roster. And it was extremely expensive.
I miss when we had.
Christ.
Oh, yeah.
I miss when we had Sotek here.
Go on, Fred. What would you choose?
Khorne.
God.
Of course you would. You gym rat.
Look, Khorne is like. Look, Khorne is basically. Like, look at this. Khorne is basically just the fight UFC side of Joe Rogan, right? It's just like big demonic Joe Rogan sitting there like, did you see that kick, Jamie? Did you? I just want to see like good fights and stuff like that. Like that, we're not like talking about his podcast or other things like that. It's just the gym, like the MMA side of him, right? Just want to see a good fight. That's all. If you're like following him, you can just like work out all day. You like go and do some MMA, maybe do some axe training, go do things like that. You're also following the god of like honor and, martial prowess and stuff like that. And some of the followers get a little bit zany, get a little bit bloodlusted.
A little bit.
Well, okay. So and then so you can maybe like work out and, be happy like that. You don't need to go like the Scaramore or something like that. You can just, be, fine. And then you have Tzeentch. Tzeentch is the only Chaos God that will actively try to fuck you over all the time. No breaks on that one. Like, that is what is going to happen all the time. I think that was a cat here.
It's like a ghost.
I was like, what is that? Is he haunted? Oh my God. Evidence of the supernatural.
God, I hope that comes across in the recording.
And Slanesh is like excess, so you're never gonna be happy, you know. Like it's the absolutely what's it called?
The tit snakes.
It's the opposite of Epicureanism. So like I'm not really like I don't think I would be happy there. Like it would be fun for a while, but then you just need like more and more all the time. And then Nurgle is like, yeah, I love you, but they also love everything that lives in you. And if you die, you become like just mulch for like his pestilent flowers, and he would love you still, but you would be dead.
Oh no, a god that loves me forever until I die. Oh no. Ever to Jesus, friend.
and then if you follow, Khorne, you know, eventually maybe he'll just give you a secret, and you'll be so angry you'll never die.
Yeah, I'm going with Nurgle.
Rubbish. I don't want to be angry all the time. That sounds awful.
Yeah, but like if he doesn't have his eyes on you, you could just, you know, work out and try to be better at stuff, you know, self-improvement and stuff like that. That sounds nice.
You're right there, Dan. It does make sense that Fred goes for the gym bro god.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was the interview episode. A little bit of a mess, this discussion, if I'm honest. There's going to be some cuts again.
This was perfection.
But, why would you cut anything here?
Okay, I'll leave it as is.
This is gold.
So one last thank you to Sean for coming on. We do appreciate it, and please God, we hope we can get someone to come back next DLC season because
I hope Sean wants to come back, and I hope that he's safe and sound, and Josh didn't like get into his house
or anyone else. If you out there are a Creative Assembly dev, probably don't reach out to us because you'll get in trouble. But tell Josh, and he'll know what to do.
I did want to say that obviously Sean did this entirely off his own back.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was put out as does anyone want to do this? And Sean was the one who went, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So that was really, really kind of him to do that.
During work hours as well.
During work hours. When he's obviously got better things to be doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if there's any bug out there, it's like, this is what they're doing instead of fixing the bug. Like 30 minutes of his time went into this. He could have fixed the gate bug instead. Gate bug.
The siege replays are still broken.
I really should have asked him about the gate bug, but I just assumed that's just part of the architecture at this point, since it was in like other Total War games as well.
You know what? There was a few years ago. I was talking to some of the devs, and I can't remember what we were talking about, but there was something about like, oh yeah, I wince every time I see that, and I was like the gate bug, and they went, yes, exactly. Like the level of exasperation in their voice suggested that, yeah, there's just, I don't know what to do about that, and I can't fix it. And I suspect it is entirely baked into the architecture of the game, and they can't do anything about it.
It's like when you invite someone over to your really nice house, but then they look out the kitchen window and it's just your neighbor standing there in a bathrobe, but naked and like having it open, flaunting and sitting there with the coffee and staring right into your house. It's like, I can't do anything about that. It's legal. He can do what he wants in his property.
That's right. I can do exactly what I want in my property.
Yeah, only one of us here is wearing a bathrobe, so let you fill in the blanks. Anyway, that seems like a good place to wrap it up.
Yep.
Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Goodbye.
And that's us. That's it for us this time.
Bye.
Bye.